If you're coming to Copenhagen, there's one thing you can't miss: the bakeries. This city is obsessed with pastries and coffee. Specifically, they specialize in the cardamom bun. Let's count down the top 5 bakeries in Copenhagen to enjoy the best cardamom buns and cappuccinos in the city. I know how difficult researching for bakeries can be. I've narrowed it down to the top 5 and want to share the stories and tidbits that make visiting them just that much more enjoyable. Normally, you're rewatching short form videos to find the name and locations, and it's just really not that great. So, at the beginning of each location, I've added an on screen cheat sheet. This will give you all the information you need to bring for your visit to lead you to have an outstanding experience at the bakery. The first bakery I want to take you to is the Cabra. They're known for their long fermented artisan loaves and fragrant cardamom buns. They were originally founded in 2012 in Aarhus, but in 2023 they moved to their current location, which is centrally located in downtown Copenhagen. It's close to all of the major shopping. Their store actually is half a clothing store and half a coffee shop bakery. So the clothing store is called Another Aspect. They share a bathroom, but the coffee shop bakery has half of the store and then seating outside, and it is an excellent experience. The line oftentimes wraps around the store and sometimes out the door. Highly recommend visiting it. They also have locations in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Bangkok, and they're continuing to expand. But they really emphasize great quality pastries as well as a vibe and seating experience. So, where we sat, we were on a bar overlooking the counter where you order the pastries as well as where they're making them in the back. So, it was really fun to sit there almost like watching a cocktail bar, but you're watching the bakery and pastries be formed, and highly recommend visiting here on your next visit. The next place I want to take you to is Lille Petra. This could be debated whether it's truly a solo bakery or whether it's a bakery attached to a cafe that specializes in breakfast and lunch. But it's good enough and the location is unique enough that I wanted to include in this list because I think you should come on your next trip to Copenhagen. So, a couple things you need to know. The name Lille Petra, it comes from a lounge chair designed in the 1930s by Viggo Bolsen, and the store is owned by a Danish design brand called Tradition. And as you walk around the cafe, almost everything is for sale. So, like lights, chairs, bookshelves, everything you see and touch, you can buy from Tradition. And it's great for breakfast and lunch if you want more of a traditional Copenhagen breakfast or Danish breakfast. A lot of different seating areas inside, as well as they have this beautiful courtyard. And from the outside, you might not even realize that there's a restaurant inside of here. You go down a little closed doorway, and then you enter this courtyard. They've got really cute signage all over, hanging down from above, and highly recommend you visit. The chef is an alumni of Noma. Noma is was at one point the number one restaurant in the world, and as we work through this list, you'll see a couple of these different locations have ties back to Noma, whether it's ex-Noma people working at this new location, or whether people have gone back and forth or at one point provided baked goods to Noma. But any restaurant that has a tie back to Noma, where the chef is an alumni, that's a great sign for the food and activities there, and I highly recommend you visit. Coming in at number 3, we have Juno the Bakery. While excellent, many will argue that this should be number 1, maybe in the world, but for me, it's number 3 for a couple different reasons, but I still highly recommend you visit here. It was founded in 2017 by Emil Geyser, who's also a Noma alumni. We just talked about that before, but he set out with the goal of creating the world's best cardamom bun, and arguably, I think he got pretty close. So, what he said is we wanted to create something that gave value to our local neighborhood, so we jumped straight in. They make it in small batches throughout the day, so regardless of what time you show up, you're almost always going to get fresh cardamom buns. And it's really become the biggest tourist spot in Osterborough. It's worth your time to go there. Highly recommend it. I've been on all the trips I've been to Copenhagen, but the challenge is you show up and you're surrounded by tourists in line. You go and you get a wonderful experience, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. The pastries, the coffee, they were good. They were great. They were a 9 out of 10. The next two on our list, I think, even blow it up even more. But nothing against Juno the Bakery. I highly recommend you go. It's For a reason, they set out with the goal of creating the best cardamom bun, and they sure got close. And I think many people would debate that they actually did accomplish it. So it's worth visiting. I highly recommend it. But I want to show you the next two items. Let's take a quick break from the list to give you some general advice to help plan your Copenhagen trip with the sole goal of eating and enjoying cardamom buns. So all these bakeries, they open up early in the morning and they close in the early to late afternoon. Yes, Juno the Bakery does small batches to try to keep things fresh throughout the day, but those batches are just more rare as you get into the afternoon. Juno's crowded, so they can keep them fresh. You're going to get the best variety and taste of pastries if you go in the morning. In the mornings, that's when the longest lines are for locals picking them up, but it's also when they make the pastries for the restaurants. So when you show up, you're going to have the widest variety of flavors and pastries, as well as they'll be coming out nice and warm. And then once you get your pastry, get your coffee, sitting inside or outside the bakery, that's when the vibe is the best. There's people hanging out there enjoying it, enjoying their food, enjoying their drink, but also just reading books and conversing with each other. So I'd recommend going in the morning to get the best bakery experience. The next thing I do is, while cardamom buns are outstanding and they are the best thing in Copenhagen, don't sleep on all the other great pastry options there. So if you're going to go, maybe you get a couple buns or pastries in the morning, or if you're trying the same location multiple times, try ordering something else. I found that a lot of the cinnamon pastries were outstanding. They have a cinnamon bun that's extremely similar to the cardamom bun. Sometimes I put some cardamom on there, and oh my god, that one's outstanding. Won't order it instead of the cardamom bun, but maybe on the second time I do have it. The other thing is, visually, and for this list, it's way more exciting talking about cardamom buns. You can start to smell them a little bit. But Copenhagen and Denmark are really passionate about their coffee and their espresso. So at all of these locations, I'd recommend going and getting the latte, cappuccino, any sort of espresso drink that goes really well with the buns, but it's also they're making top tier drinks. One of the crazy things with Denmark is it's one of the few countries that normally doesn't charge extra for milk alternatives. So go wild, order your oat milk, almond milk, soy milk. They have a lot of lactose free milk, and they usually provide it with no extra costs. And then we gave you the top 5 bakeries that you need to try on your next trip. There's constantly new ones popping up. Sometimes your local neighborhood one can be outstanding too. So go to these 5 ones, but also experiment with whatever your local bakery is. See if it's great. If it's excellent, we'd love to know about it in the comments. And now let's continue on with the list. And now coming out at number 2 for the best bakery in all of Copenhagen, sorry for the pronunciation, Bageriet Brød. It's in the Vesterbro neighborhood and is an excellent bakery. It was founded in 2012 and really pioneered the sourdough renaissance in Copenhagen. So they're one of the first bakeries to really specialize in long fermented breads. Prior to this, it was yeast loaves, and all the bakeries on the list are actually long fermented breads, but Bageriet was the one who started this whole trend. So the founding team came from another one we're not going to be able to pronounce very well, Kiskoch, or whatever, Kiskoch, which is a corner store in Delhi, maybe like a 5-minute walk away. We biked by it all the time. It is packed. This corner store in Delhi has the coolest people outside. It's a wine bar. You can get whatever you need there. So the team behind that went and started this bakery. The chefs for this bakery have history at Noma and Amass. We talked about Noma before. It keeps coming up on this list, but it is impressive for the amount of chefs and bakers that they can graduate out of there and who start their own businesses. And then out of all of the bakeries on this list, this one is the most localized to a neighborhood. So it's a little deeper into Vesterbro, which is an amazing neighborhood. But if you hang out here, you're more likely to get locals. In the store, there's seating in the back, but there's also like a wide variety of items you can buy that are like specialty grocery items. I'm sure this comes back from their corner store history. But excellent pastries. They put them all to cool in the window, so when you're waiting in line, you're just smelling them. I recommend either sitting in the square outside of it or the sort of like stadium seating in the back overlooking the entire bakery. And that's my favorite place to sit. You get to watch everybody with their big smiles and excitement ordering their coffees and pastries. And that comes in at number 2. And now, finally, in my opinion, the number one bakery in all of Copenhagen has got to be Hart. So, a little bit about Hart. British man Richard Hart founded it in 2018. But prior to that, he had founded a very famous bakery in San Francisco called Tartine, which now has locations also in Los Angeles. Rene Redzepi was the head chef of Noma. We've talked about Noma throughout this video, but Rene reached out to Hart and invited him to lead the pastry section of the Noma kitchen. So Hart did that for a long time before the two of them founded Hart. So Richard Hart runs Hart Bakeries and is backed by Rene Redzepi. One of the great things about this is Noma has since closed, but for the last couple years, Hart provided the baked goods to Noma. So Rene thought that the best bakery, the best pastries they could get in the entire city were buying them from Hart. I agree, the best place to get pastries in all of Copenhagen are buying them from Hart. So, some interesting things about this is if you've watched season 2 of The Bear, they go to Hart to learn how to make the best pastries. So it's in pop culture. The first location was in Fredericksburg, but now they have 11 plus locations throughout the city. A lot of them are near the river where you're jumping in and out. Some of them are in the neighborhoods. So it's pretty easy to visit a Hart location, and they are all excellent. Um, as one travel writer put it, you know you're doing good when you stand out in a city known for its use of flour. So they make the best cardamom buns there, but they're really famous for something called a cardamom croissant. So it's halfway between a cardamom bun and a croissant. So it tastes like a cardamom bun, but it has the texture and flakiness of a croissant. It's outstanding. You have to visit it. You have to try it. And finally, that's my top 5 bakeries in all of Copenhagen if you're on the hunt for the best cardamom buns. Hopefully, these cheat sheets at the beginning of each location help you have information to bring with you and make the experience a little bit more personal and have some backstory when you're enjoying your cardamom croissants or cardamom buns. So, if there's any locations I missed or as this list changed, give me your opinion on them in the comments below, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch.